Good evening. It's been a bit of a late night, but I did get the underground train working. Lovely. In this video, we will be amputating a few passengers, and I was going to skip right by that and get to the running in session, but there are some of you who always say, why didn't you show that? So I'm going to show that. So we're going to show the stacking of passengers in the train, and then we're going to do a running in session. It'll get a little long, but thank you. Thanks for watching. If you like these videos, go ahead and click the like and subscribe buttons, of course.
These are the particular DCC chips I'm using. On the back here, it's a tiny piece of card. I can't read that. It's a good job I'm making videos, isn't it? Well, there we go. These are some of the function numbers. Of course, you don't really know what the particular loco has got attached to function 1. But certainly function 2 is good to know. Brake button. I shall need that, I'm sure. This is where it gets complicated. Software version C also. I have no idea how you would update the software version of one of these things. There must be some place you can plug these chips to get a new firmware or whatever. It says software version, so who knows? But we use them as they are. I'm looking down here, long consist address. Yeah, we know all about that. This is the speed steps. What I'm looking for is inertia. I may have gone right past it. Just to say that there's a lot of reading up that needs to be done. We've got one of them in, and I'll have the other one to put in this locomotive. It's not really a locomotive, but that's the way you have to think of it. So we'll get the body off that one, just pop that in there before I start amputating people. Well, it's the same process with the card either side. Then I'm doing this one-handed. They really do come apart very easily. I'll change that out. I'll do this one in real time, trying to keep everything in front of the camera just to show you how fast it really is. First, the biggest problem is getting into the case for the chip more than getting into the underground vehicle itself. Couple of pro tips, as it were. Funny when I say that is I can't get into this box. There we go. Doink. So there's the chip. Try not to tear the looks like somebody stuck their chewing gum in there. That must be what they call white tack. I'm going to take it off and throw it away before I stick it to something. As I wiggle this out of here, paying attention to the arrow. Here it comes. Pop it down. Straight in with the chip. One of the things to be aware of, you wouldn't immediately think of this, is that the that's it, done. And if I push that on there, it would be ready. One of the things to be aware of is the and keep these. So now we've got 2 of those, and I'll put them in one of the cases. There we are. And I'll put the lid back on, so I know where they are, and I'll drop those in the drawer with the others. Yeah, does that give you a clue as to what the problem would be? You can get the wrong top on the driver unit. It's quite common for me to get the wrong carriage lid on something because I've got the whole set open all at once. So what I like to try and do is just keep them right next to each other. So that one's there, and over here, there's the other. I've also got to take the lids off those. I could just do them one at a time, but I want to be able to play with the people I'm putting in. So that oh yes, I put this one in there, put that one in there. I kind of like this guy. I don't want to, I think I'll put him on the platform. Let me show you what I mean. I'll hold him by his walking stick. He doesn't look too bad at all, does he? Do you see what I mean? So I'll put him on a station somewhere. Say, sir, you've been spared. Now, they really are different sizes. I meant to show you that the other day. Look at the size of this guy I've got here. And then this one. And that's not supposed to be a child. They're just really cheap and nasty. I was rethinking my strategy on these things. The problem is that you really don't get very many of them out of the box, and it might just be cheaper to buy the right thing. Now, just to make the point, these are Bachmann seated figures for O scale. Now, let me just haul one out. Let's take the guy with the newspaper there. So much better. He's just a lovely looking chappy, isn't he? It looks like he's gone, oh my word, he's got his fingers in his mouth. This one looks like The Walking Dead. Yeah, they are significantly better, of course, compared to the best I can find in the cheap pack. However, as I said, you only get 5 or 6. It was 6 in the Bachmann pack for, I believe that pack was $11. Anyway, we've got enough of these people here to fit. Okay, so this guy would, he's about knee high to tall, so we'll just chop him off at the knees. There we go. Now he sits nicely on the seat. True, we could have left his legs a little longer. I'm sure he won't mind. I used to keep all the feet that I cut off, but I've got now so many of them, I just tossed them. There was a pair sticking out from under a car not long ago. It looked like somebody was working on a car, but there's only so many legs you can use. Here's black tack. Never used this stuff for putting people in carriages before, but we're going to give it a go. Well, we've got to make sure it's not, I mean, we're not going to see it, which is why I'm happy to give it a go. It did look a bit, it's a family show, Ian. Yeah, he's there. And because these are fairly straightforward to get off again, learning my lesson, I'll cut this one off about there. And you see how I'm using the flat cutters so that you don't end up with pointed stumps. His bottom's a bit wide, so we'll move him up to one of the wider seats. There we go, he fits quite nicely there. I'm putting him on the inside, so he needs a little bit of black tack under him too. Making a little... Don't do what I do. Learn from the mistakes I make is probably the better way to say it. It just feels like I'm on a hiding to nothing, I think. This isn't where I'd put him before, but I think he'll work there. I want to keep him away from the edges. Now then, there is a drive shaft running right along underneath there. That's where the motor is, hiding under there, which is why the floor is so high. Yeah, I mean, it's a compromise. Of course it is. I just think they could have done just a little bit better than having this thing sitting out. This is quite a tall-legged man. So where are your legs going to end up? I've just pulled out the partition wall. I actually really like that. If you need information, these are our lines. Very clever. I'm going in even further. Yes, you can read. That is ridiculous detail. But here I am putting legless people in. This is where it's come from, the partition wall. Great detail. I love that they do it. Well, there you go. One driver. Oh, but they didn't wear green shirts. Well, this one did, and his twin brother's going in the other end. There's actually something, a serious note here. Somebody will see that and say, I didn't think they wore green shirts. And I will say, well, they must have done, because that's what he's wearing. And I think there's one the same in the other end. Nobody's going to know these weren't factory fitted. Well, except you and me. It won't just fall in, because I had to give it quite a tug to get it out. I know he's there. That's all that matters. More legs coming off here. This one looks like he's eating an ice cream or something. Don't know what he's doing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the driver 10. That's not bad. So that would be £20 if I used the real thing. Now, have I got it the right way round? I do. So all I'm doing now is just letting it gently push without pushing where I don't need to. It's interesting to me that Bachmann sells the people, but the people Bachmann sells don't fit in the train they sell. I'll show you that in just a second. I absolutely don't mind a little bit of cheating with scale, simply because I know how difficult it is. There's always a compromise between accuracy and practicality. Obviously, they have to compromise with the widths of the seats, but look, there's no way he's going to fit in there. Even if you took his bag from him, he's not going in. So he's a no. Let's take this skinny guy. He's in skinny jeans. Does his bottom fit? It doesn't. Now, I could cut his legs off and it would be a better fit, but it's still not going to sit down in between the seats. I'm wearing slippers tonight because it's really cold, and I've just dropped tack down into my slipper. I felt it go in. I've avoided this one just in case the speaker ever does get installed. I'm almost sure it won't. That's enough. There's a few people in there, just a smattering. Pop the lid on before you change your mind. Have I got this the right way around? I do. I don't. This way around. Yeah, there we are. 2 done. See if we can get into this one. Same procedure. I'm not using a cradle, mostly so that you can see what I'm doing. And there we go. Card in either side. So this card, this side is holding 2 clips off, and I'll get the other one there, and that end will just pop up. This one's not quite far enough along. So real time. There we go. And that is that. I'm keeping it this way round so that I know to put the body shell this way around. Now this one's much better. Look, you see there's no huge thing in the middle, but the ones either end do. All right, where's our people? Well, this would get really boring if I just showed you the back of my hand while I was fiddling around putting people in. So all I'm doing is putting a bit of black tack into a ball, and putting it on their bottoms and shoving them on seats. I'll show you when I'm done. And there you go. There's a few people in reasonable poses. The one thing I regret with this stuff is that there's almost always somebody standing up, no matter how empty the seats are. How do I know? Well, because I'm usually that person. It's just a little bit awkward doing that, because they would be standing by the doors, and that's right where the clips are, and I'm making excuses. I'm not bothered enough about it, I don't think. There we go. They really do come off very easily. That's a rather splendid. Well, this one was supposed to have been in the last carriage. You nearly missed this train, dear. You should have been... You're up there, I think, aren't you? Yes. There goes my box of legs. Have you noticed that some of these are going in without any amputation? And that's because I believe the floor on these trailer cars, they're both motorized. They're not motorized, that's why. There's no motor sitting under the floor. So the floor on these ones is actually much lower. In fact, our gentleman... Yeah, our gentleman with the walking stick will sit nicely with his walking stick. So he can go in there and have a proper ride. There we are. You see him? Sitting there minding his own business. Well, this is fun. So no need to amputate. I feel much better about that. Now, I used to be one of those people that could tell you where to stand to get on the train. Can't do it anymore because I can't remember. It's just my mind has gone. But I do remember, for example, at Euston, when you got on the train at Euston, because the stairs come down right at the end of the platform, the main entrance, it means that at busy times you're going to have... Now, your legs are too long. At busy times, the end carriage is going to completely fill up. So if you can get down there and just walk up the platform a little bit, if you're going any distance, you will get a seat. Right, let's pop that one on. Just to show you, it really does matter which way around you get it. You see the pins there and the contacts. Let me show you this. Pins there, contacts there. If you get it on the other way around, you'll be wondering why the lights aren't working. These are the couplings, and this is where they go. And you can see the connections at the top there. So you've got to get this in the same way up. And then at the other end, there are no connections. And this is what I've been saying. There are no connections whatsoever between cars 2 and 3. Why ever not? So if I were to just push there, you see this? This has got to go into there. If I just push, that is going to break this right off there. So the first thing is you're stepping. You see how I've gone in intentionally sideways. It's got one in, and I can, even without holding it, I can just push the other side over with my knife. I'm trying to make sure you can see. So work it in sideways, push the other side over. Do you see that? So I went one side, then the other, then just gentle pressure. Now I'm going to hold the end of that, to put my finger over the end of that until it pops out. You see this? These are the hooks. These are those hooks that have gone through that and opened out. But to just give it a shove, you're going to bust this thing right off. Now I've put that one in now because I know I can. I can't join them together right now, but I can at least do that. So that's one. I'm looking there before I go any further to make sure I'm not bending up those contacts. And I'm watching that as I push these in. And that's going in. There we go. And so the pips have come out the other side. So we now car C is perfectly fine. Nice and free running and all that good stuff. Unfortunately, the class 40 over there has been misbehaving. So I'm going to have to pull it out onto the programming track before we can do anything. Meanwhile, at the programming track, class 20. So I do have a little bit of shunting to do before we can go any further. What's going on is that the class 40 has an old chip in it that needs changing. I've seriously thought about buying a sound chip for that loco, but for the time being, it just needs to get out of the way. So that's what I'm on, so that we can get the underground train in the programming track, which will also have 3 as a code, so that we can program it. Now I know about you people, you like to see things happen. So I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm picking up that, class 20. The class 20 has got to move. And what I'm going to do is move it out of the programming track. There's nothing on the other platform, so we're going to bring it out of there and into there. It will take a minute to start up. There we go. It knows it's done. We could say 62, but there's already a 62 on the layout. We're going to call 68. I was reminiscing about that the other day. So 68, that's when the Victoria line opened. So this isn't the Victoria line train, don't worry. It looks like it needs a good run. All the CVs need sorting out. We'll pop it out on the main line. Alrighty, let's have a look at these two side by side. The newer ones on the side nearest me, the lights are whiter, but that makes sense. They were much more likely to be those colors in the 90s. The red one here at the back, the 1938 stock, looks significantly different. Let's see, can we get it into the station? Oh my word, here we go. I do need just to try something with that. We'll run it, see what happens. Does look good, doesn't it? We'll run it all the way in so that we can park another one in front of it. Well, there it goes, under its own steam for the first time. It's messed up CV values for sure. So it's taking forever to accelerate and even longer to slow down. There is a brake function. The brake is function 2, which if you hold does work. Very first thing it's got to do is climb an incline. Now this is what I was saying the other day about what happens when you have two trains together. This will eventually catch up with itself, but what's happened there is that one half of the train lost power briefly, and so the chip restarted whilst the other one tried tugging it. So it'll take a little while to get back up to speed. Now that becomes a real issue if you're trying to use it on DC and using gaps in the rail to control where it is. Because what would happen is that the front half would go over the gap, stop, and the back half would just keep pushing. A little flicker here or there is fine, but if it loses power for any significant amount of time, we'll have that issue. I will say, looking at it, it's running very smoothly for a running in session. See the people in through the windows there. Yeah, I'm happy with that. For me, that's about the right speed. Just as well, Ian, because that's the speed it goes. I'm impressed that it isn't bulking at the incline. Now, the incline isn't particularly steep. For model railways, it's incredibly not steep or unsteep or shallow. You English police. Yeah. Well, that's certainly a lovely sight. Until a couple of months ago, this whole end of the board had no scenic attention whatsoever. It still really doesn't. This is the bypass loop. Needs a bit of anchoring, but it's I will say so myself, a clever little line that jumps off of one of the turnarounds right there where the train is, heads down, and it makes the underground train certainly look like it's meant to be, going down the fairly steep gradient. And it's already below baseboard level there behind the cricket ground. And right down here under the runway is where it joins back up with the second turnaround or loop back out of one tunnel into another. It's through there and pops out here. Yes, I really do like the look of this, and it's running very sweetly, I will say. This particular curve, the one it's about to hit, is one of only two second radius or tighter on the layout. That's second radius right there. And the other one is right up there behind the unfinished hill. The original hill, the original branch. Happy with what's going on here. Need a little bit of work there. I'll talk you through it while we're having a look around. The fourth rail is underneath the two-car EMU. There, do you see it? That's the test piece we did. This scenery is really become very brittle. Will need redoing. It's just crumbling. Looks the part, doesn't it? Lovely. The church here is going to need a little bit of a spruce up. I've seriously thought about buying another one of these kits. They are still available. All of the windows fell out. I lost the cross off the top. I could make one of those, of course. We'll see. The graveyard certainly needs attention. the signal box, I want an interior for that one. I've got one, I think. We are going to extend, I've stacked up the goods wagons to make room for the underground on the main. We are going to extend that platform there. Building site back there, I've talked about this a number of times. If I back up a bit, this track loops around there. Now if I were to cut there and there, leave the village alone and then just push everything that way, that would make room for a fiddle yard. I've got about 6 feet of potential board space that way. And because the tracks are already straight here, that would be plenty enough, I think. It would enable me to make this station a quasi through station too. So there's that. We do end up going up the incline. The incline has been obviously problematic. Every incline on every model railway is. But it's all right until you get to about here, and it does look good. You get some lovely pictures here. Once you get to here though, we've got that sharp second radius curve, which during the summer lifted just a bit. Do you see it there? So that's, I've got to reach over. It's just out of arm's reach. Having a really good hard think about this whole end of the board. It was a lot of fun having all the layers. The scenics are really nothing to write home about. That top level though has been, yeah, kind of nicely finished, and at one point was running nicely. I think we can do better. I think if we take that away completely, and we'll pause because something special is coming. Yeah, there it is. If we take all of that away, over here too, look at that. There's a lovely little station hiding down there. Well, I think we can rebuild this end. Once we've got the big station done, I think something kind of special over there. We can redo the fiddle yard underneath and make this a cut and cover underground station. Redo this sweeping curve is fine, but we would cut from there. The bottom would stay where it is. This would stay, and then ease this curve and sort the mess out up here. That corner obviously needs sorting out anyway. The downside of this nice shuttle that really does work beautifully is that the moisture has got at the infill, and the infill is plaster. So if you run the trams, here they are, you run the trams, all kinds of bad things happen. I also believe we can drop this down to about here, which is board level, so that the train actually runs through the town or across here. So in other words, moving those forward. We've already seen that the under the arch thing works remarkably well. I mimicked that. I should have just taken that out and drawn around it, shouldn't I? Mimicked that at the big station. I've also realized that we really don't have a lot of space for town. We're about out of space with that much. Little bit left there. You can tell this was a piece of leftover board. Look, there's a hole in it. So I made use of what I had, which is always a good thing to do, but time has come. Now then, where were we? Oh yes, we've already done a little bit of work on the engine shed here. It's got some lovely lights. Another signal box. That signal box is special. That's Deal signal box. I used to go past that every day on the way to school. The entrance to the fiddle yard. Now, another little trick here. There is a single track coming out of that tunnel. Now, there's room to add a point underneath there and run it that way. And if I were to come along underneath there and join in with the fiddle yard that's underneath there, we would be able to run into the branch line from the other end, which would be a cute little trick. Wouldn't use it much, but I think it would be useful. There we go. Negotiating complex point work. Which brings us around to the big station, which we're busily working on. We really are working on it. Doesn't look like I've done anything. Well, because you're seeing the videos several days apart, and I'm making them at more or less the same time. Canopy cover on there. We've got the canopy, obviously. It came off of there. Still got a little bit of work to finish off the front of this. I had ordered some grey-white tape, but it just hasn't come, so I need to track that down. That's the real reason I'm holding off putting those on. We'll get the clips off. That's a 10-minute job. And then a back seam that goes on. And now you understand why I have held off there. I want to start in that corner and come this way, and using what I've got. But there must be a decent town scene, and I don't have one. So that's the dilemma there. Once we get beyond the station, though, things start looking good at the lower level. Look, I can get my finger through the cracks there. This is actually kind of a nice piece of scenic work. It does need some work. I've talked about it needing a back, but it looks good. Love the scissor crossing. A little bit of wonkiness going on here. Must do something with the bridge, making it into a bridge. The campsite needs finishing, and we've got to cover that up. We're then into the far end of the layout here. This was where we never had any scenics. Proud of the traffic lights. They really are very nicely done, thank you. And they change to the English cadence. Runway lights, of course, a bit of a gimmick, but that's fine. We do have significant amounts of this to make, so I'm going to have to sit down and make that one day. Need the scenic off the edge of the board here. Backdrop around the back. Finish off the cricket pitch. It has no crease markings. When I say crease, what I'm talking about, there should be some white lines down there by the stumps. Very proud of the pub sign. Managed to get that lit. Some work to do on the airport. We'll talk about flashing lights soon. I really am interested in making flashing lights look right, and we'll talk about that when I get that far. Entrance to the airport right there, a barrier that opens and closes, fence, so the placemat children's park. The entrance to the airport, I'm going to use an Arduino on that, so those of you interested in that, there's been a few of you saying, why don't you use an Arduino? I'm going to. I don't know how to use them. I'm going to learn, and we'll learn together. That's mini computers for the rest of us. The whole point of doing some of these electronic projects, do that kind of thing, is to show how. There's another couple of little tricks I've got up my sleeve before we get to Arduino, which will be towards the end of the year, I would imagine. But yeah, it's coming along nicely. Front of the layout, haven't decided what to do here. Has to be something. Obviously, I want by the end of the year, that's a goal, to have these gates operate. Is that feasible? I think it is. Again, with servos, Arduinos, and who knows what else. I'm keeping an eye on the underground train behind me. There is room just about underneath, and if there isn't, that's why I've kept this area here clear. Let's look underneath. Yeah, lots of electronics going on under there already. I don't see a problem. But I don't know how to use them. Never have. Space under there, look, see? So we've got places we can have a play. The return line, this sits on top of it. If I lift that up, there is, I'm not going to, but there is a gap to about, where does it come to? Actually, all the way around here. It comes all the way around here. So this, I can't lift it up. It is got a lot of junk on it. But there is a channel under there for train. The reason I did it this way with this construction board is so that we can fake the train disappearing into a cutting. Now we need to put sides on that, or at least a side on that side, so that it becomes part of a scenic inset. Oh, look, there's the train. Do you see what I mean? So yes, lots to do, in other words. Now I've done that without stopping talking or stopping the camera, so this will be a long shot. This is a 12-minute clip, I believe, so the video is at least that long. It's going to be a long video, so let me stop talking. That's plenty enough of an update for you. And can you see how the original fiddle yard is now full of trains? This is exactly what it was built for, to be full of trains, but it's now become a station, which is fine. But I prefer to have the station empty once in a while. So we will remove the fiddle yard all the way around here to off the end of the board here. Well, that's a lot, isn't it? It's doing nicely. It's almost run for half an hour. It really was a running in session. So I shall have to call this amputation running in, and oh, I don't know. If you're in for the long haul, you'll know me by now. Just thought I'd give you a bit of an update, what's in my mind, what I'm thinking about. Thank you for watching. Really do appreciate you. See you next time.